This is the Balanced Growth Show with Dr. Travis Perry, helping successful business professionals like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Growth Show. I'm your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today we have with us Matt Green. Matt is the president and CEO of Frontlight Building Company, a building and development company located in South Carolina. His company leads an innovative building process utilizing various digital platforms that are changing the way the building industry works. Matt and his team strive to create beautiful new homes by creating an unparalleled experience with their customers. Matt and his wife, Jennifer, have 3 children, Claire, Madeline, and Logan, and of course, the 2 dogs, Dash and Belle. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, you've got an interesting background here of getting to being a builder. Is probably not the traditional route, but it's more from the financial world. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, about how you entered this process, how you got here, and why this is so important for you?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you for having me today. You know, my background was unique in that I've been in the building and construction business since I was 12 years old. A family had a construction company, and I was a general laborer, for lack of a better term. Not doing the fun jobs, but doing the jobs that nobody else wanted to do. But, you know, I went to college and pursued finance and accounting. That's always what my passion I thought was. And so I did that in college, and then I was a CPA out of college for a company called Arthur Andersen, and had a great time. Met a lot of great people, still some friends today. And fortunately or unfortunately, something happened to that business where it was no longer in existence. And so I had a decision to make what I wanted to do with my career, whether I wanted to go back to school or always pursue something that I loved, and that was building and construction. And so, of course, I did the latter. And I really have never looked back. You know, I've been in the building and development business for 23 years now. I started in Boston. I went to school in Boston, and I met my wonderful wife, Jennifer, and we moved to the Georgia, South Carolina coast area back in 2002, 2003 timeframe. And you really, you know, what I love about this business is that it's tangible, right? You know, when you're working in finance and accounting, it's an intangible business. There's certainly benefits and great attributes for that industry, but it was a great basis, a great foundation for me to learn business and balance sheets and income statements. And of course, that is all applicable to what I do on a day-to-day basis now. But, you know, I really love what we do here at a company that we have called Frontlight Building Company. And, you know, when you're really working in the building and construction and development business, and you're creating homes and memories for people, you know, there's something special about that. And so we've built a team and a culture centered around some interesting principles of integrity and honesty and character and trust. And we really try to live both internal and external those values on a day-to-day basis. And so currently we live in South Carolina. As you said, we've got 3 beautiful kids. You know, they're all at great ages. They're grown up now, and college is in the foresight, and travel sports, and I'm not sure how we do it all, but my wonderful wife and I, we put it together, and we're a team, and we make it happen. So that's just a little bit about Matt and kind of what we do.
Well, I appreciate that, Matt, and thanks for telling us a little bit about your story. And, you know, the gold nugget I pull out of that is that you and your wife work as a team. And that's a crucial piece of balance that sometimes people leave out. They think they have to do it all alone. I think this is something that they've got to work on, and it's very personal. In reality, if you're married, you have children, it's not only a couples thing, but it's a family thing. You know, when my daughter looks at me and says, "Daddy, I want to play with you today." Like, okay, you got to make that time. It's precious time. And, you know, you've got to know when to give, when to stop working, when to be present. So there's a lot of things we're going to unpack a little bit today with you, and I appreciate you being here. Let's talk about, you know, growing your business. This is the Balanced Growth Show. Why is it important that as you've been growing your business to this point, I know that you have 20 plus employees, you're at a $40 million company a year. What what is it that says I've got to have this kind of balance? I've got to have great balance while I'm building my business.
So I'm a big believer in the culture of an organization. It's something that we really strive and put a lot of time, energy, and investment in, especially in today's world. Because to achieve balance, it's easy to say, but it's very hard to implement. I started Frontlight with a very good friend of mine. I was basically the sole one that was doing everything. So Matt was the one and only employee. And so as I think back to those times, I really didn't have balance in my life, I'll be honest with you. But I had a great partner. My wife, and I commend her. I can't say words to let her know how much I appreciate how she was always there to create that balance for me. Because if not, Matt would have worked 100 hours, 200 hours a week. It's just in my DNA. I'm a very driven entrepreneurial person. But as you know, when you're growing a business, you need that focus, you need that intensity, right? Because there's nobody going to do it like yourself. And so as I've looked back over the years of what I've been able to create balance, there's been two key things. Number one is to have a great teammate, great partner, and your wife. But number two is really learning how to delegate some of the things that you may never want to give up to others. And that trust and honesty, integrity of letting other people help you achieve your goals and dreams, something that was very hard for me at the outset when I had to do some of that stuff. It was very hard for me to relinquish. But as I look back now, we recently had a company culture event on Friday where all the families, and we did a fall festival. My heart just warms when I look out and I cast out and look at everybody laughing and having a good time. That's your work family. And that's how you create balance, right? You create balance through helping and getting others to support, what you're doing, getting them to buy into that culture of what you're doing. And so to me, those are really two things that I've been able to look back in my career to create that balance is, what my family and my wife's been able to do to help me to make sure I was at those sporting events and things, but also to that work family that I've built that helps us drive that culture in the organization.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's great. I think we talk about these two concepts most on this show is how you can have support from family, especially your spouse as a teammate, and delegation. So we're going to dive into those things here in a minute. And actually, I'm gonna have you kind of follow up with that. So sometimes people, say delegate, but what does that mean? Is it just dropping things off at a desk? Is it having, follow up? Is it training? For you, with a team of 20 plus, what does it mean to be able to delegate? Because I think this is what's been super helpful for you as you've grown, that you have more time now, right? You have a different life than when you were, in the focus and intense mode of driving this business to where it needs to be. And thankfully, your wife has been there to help you stay balanced. But let's talk about the delegation part. What has been helpful for you as you've been delegating to your team or teaching your team to delegate to others?
Yeah, I think it's a journey, right? I mean, I still to this day tell our team, life's a journey, but work's a journey too, right? And you never want to stop that journey, right? Because the minute you do, it'll catch up and things will happen. And I think from my standpoint, delegation has been a phased approach, right? I mean, delegation at the early onset was, task oriented, right? People helping with tasks and things like that. But fast forward to today, delegation is layering an organization with certain disciplines to be able to achieve what your goals and missions are of your company. As I sit here today, I'm not a huge title person, but I guess my title is the president and CEO. I couldn't do it if I didn't layer in a level of delegation to this organization from a management standpoint, from a middle management standpoint, and then even below that. And to me, that's really been the key to success. And that does not happen overnight. I have so many benchmark conversations with friends and colleagues that, I hear it all. Labor's hard, staffing, there's a lot of challenges out there. But what we learned as an organization through COVID is that if you work together and you delegate accordingly and you stick to your plan and communicate, it's amazing what you can achieve as a team. I never want to repeat what COVID brought to the construction and development business again. If I look back at some of the challenges and some of the daily grinds and just your take a deep breath kind of mentality, the only way we got through that is because we built that layer of delegation and process controls into our organization. And that was the guiding light for us. It really helped us, build that experience with our customers that we're trying to do. And so delegation is big. And I started off not being good at it. I'll be completely honest with you. But as I learned, it was the only way that I could achieve that balance that we discussed, right? But also growing an organization.
This is key. I like that you're mentioning that it comes in, what you were mentioning is kind of phases, right? Your delegation is in phases. And, there are challenges, there are struggles. And this is really important to address as you're building and growing. But then once you've reached a point where you're probably not trying to, work as hard, and how do you keep, the ball rolling? So I can see how that's important throughout the, different phases of a life cycle of a business. Focusing on your balance, what would you say now has been the biggest struggle for you as you've been growing and scaling this business, that you didn't lose that sense of balance that you and your wife have tried to create?
When I look at life, just as you figure it out in a certain stage, it changes. Your kids get older, they go from high school to college, you move, something happens to other family members. So what I've learned is that, you can plan for tomorrow, right? But you got to celebrate today. And to me, I think the biggest challenge that I have today is that I'm a very entrepreneurial and innovative person. And that candle burns alive and well all the time. And to me, I still have passions and desires, and I want to grow, and I want to go change certain elements of the industry. And so, as I get older, and I would like to say wiser, sometimes I question that, but as I get older, I really think about what is it I want to do and how do I want to accomplish it, right? And how do I create that balance that I want within those parameters? And so I would like to say, as the challenges that I have today are new opportunities, because we've worked so hard to get to this point in the organization, because I'm biased, but we've built a brand and we've built an experience and people want to be part of it. You kind of want to keep going. And so, the question is, when's enough, right? When's enough? What's enough? How does it impact you? How does it impact your family? To me, that's the challenge that I wrestle with each day, as my role has changed in the organization as kind of the visionary person, right? The strategic thinker. Where am I going to take the organization and how am I going to do it? And what does that look like on not only my life and my balance of life, but what's that look like on their life too, right? Because I'm responsible for things that they do and the stresses that they do. And so those are some of the things that I think about, and our challenges for me personally as I try to right the ship for the future of the organization.
Yeah, and as the visionary, you are righting the ship. You're leading this group to whichever direction you feel is best for the company. So let's talk about that a little bit. How does that affect the balance culture of the workplace? Meaning specifically, how have you been able to help your employees keep that as part of a value of the culture, to balance, as a centerpiece as changes come through COVID, through innovation? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So culture is really hard, and it's easy to talk about, right? But what I find is it's very hard to implement, especially with people who have never had guidance or input in their own lives, whether it be personally or professionally, what it means to be culture. Most of our society gets up, goes to work, comes home, and rinse and repeat. And to me, that's sad. And I look at some of the challenges that we have in today's society. It's very clear to me and evident why we have those challenges, right? Very clear. So we invested in a group out of New York that came in, and we selected the top 7 leaders in the company, and we put us through a really intense process where we self-assessed ourselves, we self-assessed each other, and we really peeled the onion back on the DNA of who we were as people within the organization. And those were some dark moments, some emotional moments. But I can tell you, Travis, the end product and the end result after a 14-month journey that we went on together, it's been some of the most impactful things that I have seen in people that have never had that kind of training, myself included, right? It's when people get a chance to get around a room and you can't react to anything anybody says, and they're telling you good things, but they're also telling the bad things. Those are humbling moments. And so as I look at how do we build culture and things like that, we constantly, we're in the process of talking about it now. What is our level of financial investment that we're going to make in the culture of this organization this year? It's almost high up on the list of what we're going to do. How do we impact others in the organization? How do we take that energy that the top 7 had? How do we spread that down now throughout the organization? And so we're in the process of doing that. So that's one of the things that I believe that, oh my gosh, it's $100,000 investment. Well, it's the best $100,000 investment you could ever make, because you're investing in people that buy into a common purpose and culture. They're learning about themselves. They're better parents. They're better people, personally and professionally. And also what it does too, I'll be honest with you, is it allows you and others in the organization who may not be a good fit for your culture, they realize that on their own. And you hate to see people, right, leave the organization, but sometimes you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And so I'm always trying to find ways to do it. I've got this coin right here that I'll show you here, and you see it's the Frontlight logo, nice. And on the back, it's got a number on it, and it's got our 4 values of respect, trust, honesty, and integrity. And I give it to every employee. Mm-hmm. And I tell them all the time, and I'd love for them to carry it every day. They don't. But I call upon this coin often as a token that, when you're getting ready to talk negative, or when you're having a tough day, or whatever it may be, remember these values that we all agreed upon. And so it's little things like that I have, little bridges that we build from here and there, right? That help the culture and the employees. And I would say our culture is really alive and well today. People have bought into it. And it also allows us to, I write a letter to all of our employees, right, that come into this organization. It's a 1.5-page letter, and it's specifically talks about my culture and expectations that we want to create in this organization. So if the minute somebody touches this organization, it's very clear what we're going to do. Now, are they going to break some of those rules? Absolutely. It's the human nature. But if we have a baseline to come back to as a group, as a unit, right, and get back on the same page, to me, that's what's most important. And that's what's the most challenging thing, is to make sure everybody understands where we're always going to come back to. We may stray from the path, and that's okay, but we always got to come back to that center line to keep that balance, if you will, to make sure we're all aligned and on the same page.
You bring up a really good point of how you're implementing this top down. You invest a lot in the people, but you bring a good point. The ones that aren't going to fit the culture, they're probably not contributing to this culture change anyway. It's probably best, as you mentioned, it's okay that they go. In fact, it's better for them, because they're going to be they're unhappy, right? They're unhappy with where they're at if they don't just really love the culture. And as you've talked about earlier, I think in the pre-show, we talked about, making your business like a family. Some people disagree. No, it's not a family. I can see it both ways. And I like how you're taking this approach of like, no, this is our balanced culture. We have a worksheet, a mantra, whatever it is that you're giving to them, some training, like this is what I want the balanced culture to be about. So they know firsthand, once they come in, it's this. They don't have to sign up for it, right? I don't want that. I don't want this type of, balanced life. I want to work myself to death. Like that's a different story. And I find this odd because some people really struggle as business leaders to draw this hard line in the sand and say, this is our balance culture. This is what we're bringing to you as a business, as a team, as a family, away from family, because they are afraid. I think they are afraid that they will lose people. But I honestly agree with you that you're going to lose people that don't belong, and that's actually better for them. Have you seen that now as you've grown this business through the different phases? Have you seen that those people who have left have gone on to have better opportunities, and that your culture has been better for it, or is it the other way around?
100%. And I could tell you through, you are 100% accurate that the people that leave are not good culture fits for the organization. They may agree to disagree with that comment, but I will tell you from where I sit and what I watch and how it affects the organization. It's very evident to me that as we were going through that assessment process, we lost 3 or 4 people. And I look back and I say to myself, that was the best investment we made, because they learned early on, right, that this may not be something for them. And while that used to drive me nuts, because I thought everybody would work for me for 100 years, I've quickly come to realize that, man, that's okay. Like, people have different aspirations and things than you, but there's certain people out there that, want to have a common purpose and want to do good, want to have fun, and you make some money while you're doing it. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. And we have just learned in this organization to don't give up, to keep driving. And, those who don't agree with that, yeah, they eventually leave. And what really pains me is that I really want to say to them what my thoughts are, right? I really want to give them life lessons. I'm kind of an old school traditional person, right? I wish I was dialed back in the 50s and the 60s. And I don't agree with all the principles and things, the change that the world's going through, right? We won't get into that. That's conversation for another day. But I really wish that I could give these people that feedback. Of course, we don't. We try to leave and part ways with everybody in a very professional manner. But you're 100% right that those things usually take care of themselves, and it's very ironic to me how that happens. But you got to have a good purpose, a good culture. You've got to live it. You got to breathe it. You got to constantly remind people. We call them CSIs, right? So if you do something I don't like, right? I don't call you out right there. You may know by my body language that I don't agree with you, but I'm going to set a CSI with you, and we're going to talk about it, right? And when we leave that CSI, we're going to be on the same page, and we're back to but you understand how it affected me. And it's amazing to be in our society now how little people communicate when there's problems, and they fester and they layer and they build, and guess what happens? An explosion happens, right? And somebody leaves or somebody gets upset, or it's but I've just learned that if you really stick to that common purpose and do the corny things like the coin or whatever it may be, as corny as it sounds, it works. And you constantly remind people that these values you need to live every day. And it stems over to your kids and your family and everything. And it's so at the end of the day, when you talk about work family, I do believe there's a work family, right? May not be the same as a personal family, but there is a work family where you come into an environment and I care, right? Yeah. So we let people off. We'll just give people off the day. Hey, Wednesday we're off, no work. And we do those things just to make sure people, work's hard, right? It's challenging. And it's not always about how much money you make, right? And that's where the lines really become blurred when you're so driven on the finance side. But anyway, it's really interesting how some things take care of themselves.
Well, and as you mentioned, like, you're in a different phase where you're looking at doing other things, and your entrepreneurial brain is always spinning. We talked a little bit about potentially getting out there and speaking. Is that kind of where your mind is heading? Is trying to help the industry through thought leadership?
Yeah, it's really a passion of mine. When I look at the construction and development business, we're decades behind in terms of innovation and technology. And so it's amazing how things happen. You talk about faith, right? Faith's important in my life. I was introduced to a very large company, a publicly traded company, and I've been able to work with them on some investments that they made to really impact how a building and construction company works, utilizing the digitization of paper plans into a 3D virtual setting, right? It seems simplistic, it doesn't seem complicated, but I often tell people all the time that the construction industry is a series of 1,000 silos in the field, and they all see each other, right? They're beautiful. One's green and one's red, and they're shiny and everything else, but none of them talk to one another, right? They can see each other, but none of them talk. And so what we're doing in our organization, and it's a passion of mine, is trying to figure out, when we look back on our career and we look back on our legacy, do we just come to work and do the same thing every day? Mm-hmm. Or did we have an impact? Or were we part of something to change? And, I mentioned earlier that we have a digital strategy now that allows our organization to be creative, to be innovative, to be, change agents, not the people on the side of the road waving, signs and everything else, right? But just doing it in a humble manner and utilizing what we do on a daily basis to impact change. And so it's a passion of mine, right? Because I believe it needs to happen, right? I believe the industry's hurting, it's tired. COVID buried this industry in terms of just, if you own your own cabinet company, right? It was really hard, right? And it was really hard. And so to me, I have a passion to really talk about it because I've seen firsthand how the impact it can have to trades, the cabinet vendor, or it can impact the customer. And a customer can see and touch and feel something before you even think about construction. To me, that's cool. It creates a memory. They can show Uncle Frank and Aunt Martha the videos all day long, and it's still pine trees out at the site, right?
That's right.
And again, those silos are there. And what's happening in the industry now is we're really connecting some of those dots. And little old Frontlight Building Company is at the front and center of some of that change. And so to me, telling that story, talking about it, the impact of our organization is something that, something that I feel is, I don't know whether I was called upon to do it, but I'm starting to feel that way because it just keeps, showing up, and we're having a little bit of success with it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. Entrepreneurs are called to do great things. And oftentimes you have to go through the worst of times to make it happen. I know a lot of businesses that went out, they went bust, and they were healthy and strong, or they thought they were right during COVID. In your industry was hit super hard. Every industry was hit hard, let's be honest. But you couldn't just go home on a Zoom screen and continue work as normal. It's not how this works. You have hard physical products, and you have delays of supplies, and the prices of everything that just shot through the roof. And what a crazy, crazy time. Your story needs to be told. And I appreciate you coming here to tell us a little bit about what you're doing and help that message be heard. Entrepreneurs out there love to hear other entrepreneur stories. If you were to give some advice to the other entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs out there, I know you've been giving us advice throughout this interview, but any last piece of advice that you would say to kind of wrap up our show today, Matt?
Yeah, one of the things that I look back on my career, you're always scared to make that decision, right? Take that leap of faith. I look at my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. I just wish somebody would have really told me, don't be scared, go for it. Because, you have to believe and trust in yourself, right? And I know as you grow and you get older and you learn more, you have a family, and things become more risky when you have a family. I don't believe in any of that stuff. If you believe in something, go do it. Would be my number one advice. Go do it. And if you fail, do it again. Because I believe that if you have the passion and you have the vision and you have the drive, the rest will take care of itself, right? I tell people all the time, go down the rapids. If you have no paddle, you're going to get to the end. You may hit some rocks, You may hit some craters, right? But the boat's not going to stop and you're not going to fall out. So keep going down. And I think that's kind of how I've had the mentality. You know, so many people have told me, oh, you're never going to do it. Oh, you're just trying to, live these pipe dreams and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really say much, right? I just always let our actions, and I try to be humble about it, speak for themselves. So I would always encourage people, young entrepreneurs, people that are sitting in careers that aren't happy, make that change. Go do it. Believe in yourself. Talk to people like myself. I mean, I'll talk to anybody about, yeah, did I learn some things? Yeah. Did I wish somebody told me some things? Heck yeah. But always believe in yourself. And I think people have lost, there's so much negativity in our society, right? And everybody's so scared to do anything. That's just noise. It's white noise. Believe in yourself. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different skill set. And I would encourage people to go find what your passion is.
Love it. Thanks for your thoughts today. And yeah, I mean, it is a leap of faith. You got to get past those blocks, the subconscious noise in your head a lot of the time. And it's exacerbated when others speak, like you mentioned, but really it's here. It's here in your mind. And I can't agree with you more. Our Balanced Growth book is actually going to start off with a chapter on faith. And,
Awesome.
Faith is a principle of action. You have to do it. You can't just think about it. That's hope. And it's great to have hope, but faith is that action. I appreciate you and what you're doing for your industry that affects, we're all connected. It affects all of society. And what a great example you are of being a balanced leader. And thanks for being on the show today, Matt. Really appreciate this time.
Thanks, Travis.
Absolutely. And if you loved it, like, share, subscribe, follow us here. And, remember, until next time, live life on purpose.